The Denver Nuggets Bol Bol has already become one of the breakout players and storylines of the NBA restart in Orlando, showing off the rare blend of size and skill that made him such an intriguing prospect throughout the 2019 NBA draft process. However, there are reasons why we haven't heard much from him over the past few months since the draft, and why he wasn't a highly drafted player in the first place, despite the obvious potential and upside of his game that we're now seeing in Orlando. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about why exactly nobody wanted Bol Bol. So welcome back everybody, my name is Tucker, and as I said in today's video, we're going to be talking about why nobody wanted Bol Bol in the 2019 NBA draft and why he was drafted so late, while also going through some of the background of his high school as well as his college career. But quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. It's a great way to keep up with the channel, and leaving a like rating is also a great way to let me know not only that you're enjoying the content, but also that you want to help out the video as well. With that said, let's go and get started. So as I said, it didn't take long for Bol Bol to get everybody's attention at the Orlando restart, because with Denver missing some of the key players of their backcourt, they sent out a really interesting, huge lineup that included Nikola Jokic at point guard, along with other bigs like Mason Plumlee and Bol Bol all in the lineup at the same time. But it wasn't just this weird lineup that got everybody's attention, but also Bol Bol's play on the court. He showed off his skills as a passer, shooter, and defender, while also showcasing that mobility and fluidity that's really rare for a player his size. And this was a breakout that we all knew was possible for Bol Bol, but maybe we didn't expect to see so soon, or at the very least, not this suddenly. Now, going back to his high school days, Bol was a consensus top 5 recruit in the class of 2018, with his family lineage being the son of former NBA player Manute Bol, only being a small part of what made him such an intriguing prospect. He entered the college ranks as a pretty clear possible one-and-done prospect, which meant that all the usual suspects were in play during his recruiting, most notably Kentucky, but ultimately he decided to commit to Oregon, which is a program that has been rising in prominence within the basketball scene over the last couple of years. But even with the high expectations that come with being a potential one-and-done player at the college level, Bol Bol exceeded a lot of the expectations that people had for him in his first handful of games, putting up some really big performances, but unfortunately suffered a foot injury just a handful of games into the season, and he decided that it made more sense to shut it down to focus on preparing for the draft rather than risk future injury. And going into the 2019 NBA draft, people were really excited about him despite the injury stuff. Bleacher Report had him ranked 9th in their mock draft, NBADraft.net had him 18th, and ESPN had him 15th. NBADraft.net's player comparison listed him as a Sam Perkins / Kristaps Porzingis type player, with his strengths being his unusual size and length for an NBA big, and his ability to knock down outside shots along with that length, making his skill set very unique, along with, as I mentioned earlier, a really rare physical skill set with that quickness and body control to go along with his size. In terms of weaknesses, the most notable was that he was unable to stay on the floor at the college level, playing in just 9 games, and he needed to continue to bulk up and add some size to his game as well so he wouldn't get pushed around by bigger NBA bigs. And at this point during the draft process, opinions on Bol Bol were pretty split. There were some people that thought that he was a top 5 talent in this draft class, and there were others that thought that he should maybe go in the teens or even 20s because of the injury stuff. And that, more than anything, can really cause a polarizing debate around a draft prospect, because no matter how talented a player is, if they're unable to stay on the floor, it's pretty irrelevant. Now, it was clear that he had the skill set required to be a really good modern big, with the shooting touch that he showcased at times, and the size and the length as well to be a rim protector along with that shooting stroke. In worst case, if he was able to put those two things together and stay on the floor, he was going to be a really good player, and if he was able to add other parts to his game around that as well, a potential all-star moving forward. And as I said, entering that draft, it was pretty clear that he was, worst case, going to be a first-round pick. Somewhere in the top 20 seemed realistic. However, once it got to draft night, that completely changed, because as it turned out, Bol Bol ended up going with the 44th pick in the 2019 NBA draft, initially by Miami, who then traded that pick away for a future second-round pick and cash. So not only did he drop all the way to 44th, but Denver moved up to 44 to get him, which meant that he was actually traded away before his NBA career even really started. Side note, could you even imagine what a Miami frontcourt would have looked like with Bol Bol alongside Bam Adebayo? That would have been incredible. So what exactly caused him to drop all the way down to the 44th pick, a guy that was seen as a potential lottery pick for a good part of the draft process? Well, it's not just the injury. It's not just the fact that he only played 9 games in college, because we've seen players in the past like Kyrie Irving become the #1 overall pick despite only playing a handful of games in college. But it's the body type of Bol Bol, as well as the fact that he is a big guy dealing with a foot injury. And that is a very, very scary thing for NBA teams to deal with, and they don't really get as concerned about injury stuff with guards as they do with bigs, and specifically lower body injuries to big guys, whether it's a foot, a knee, a leg, whatever it may be. Those are things that generally, just because these guys are carrying around more weight than your typical NBA guard, can be a huge issue and potentially a career-ending issue when you're looking back at the history of all kinds of bigs, whether it's their knees, their feet, their legs. That is a huge concern for NBA teams, and a lot of teams just didn't feel like taking a chance on someone like Bol Bol, despite the obvious skill set and potential and upside of him, because of a foot injury that pretty often can be debilitating for NBA bigs. And so in terms of why nobody really wanted him, that's pretty much it. It's the injury, and it's the kind of injury that he has and how that relates to his position and his fit moving forward in the NBA. And now on this Nuggets team, he just adds a whole nother level as long as he can stay healthy that is kind of under the surface for this team, right? We know that the Nuggets are good. We know that even without Michael Porter Jr., even without Bol Bol, they have a very solid core of players that can be a top 4, top 5, seed in the Western Conference. But now they also have this like hidden potential and upside on their roster, not only with Bol Bol, but also with Michael Porter Jr. And I think it's an incredibly smart strategy to go with those high upside players in the draft like they have, and to try and get a tremendous amount of value out of a player that's just outside the lottery in Porter Jr. or all the way in the second round in Bol Bol. And if they hit on just one of those guys, much less 2, they're going to be an incredible team moving forward, because they've already got everything else around those guys that they need. And what those 2 players can provide from an upside and a potential and a borderline star caliber talent standpoint is exactly what this roster needs. And I don't know if it's going to happen with Bol Bol, because we've seen this in the past with big guys that have, those types of foot injuries, those knee injuries, where they have a couple of good games and people get really excited about them, but that's all we ever see from them. So moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see how Bol Bol's career develops, and if he can continue the success, not just in some scrimmages, but also in real games in Orlando and then in the postseason as well. But it's nice to just kind of have that wild card, both him and Michael Porter Jr., not only in the development of the team moving forward, but also on a game-by-game basis. If they really need a ton of length on the floor, they can put that huge lineup out there and go zone if they need to, and Michael Porter Jr. can be a part of that as well. And this is a strategy that I would, if I was in charge of an NBA front office, if I'm picking guys outside the lottery or in the second round, I love this strategy of just going with super high upside guys that, might have some red flags, might have some injury stuff, but if you hit on them, there's such incredible value there. And Denver's done a great job over the last couple of seasons as well, developing players like that, they don't really have top 5 picks on their roster. They've got Jamal Murray, who was a lottery pick, Gary Harris, who was a later to mid first round pick. Obviously, Nikola Jokic was a second round pick. There's all kinds of success stories on this roster of players that have developed within that Denver Nuggets system, and they have done a great job of finding in the draft process. And Bol Bol and Michael Porter Jr. might be another 2 players to add to that list. But specifically for Bol Bol, it's just a case of people that didn't want to deal with the injury stuff, and I don't blame them for it at all. But he absolutely could become a big time player in this league, or another bust, because there's a reason why all those teams were scared off by such a scary injury. But yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.